President Trump is in a post-election funk as the blue wave that put Democrats in charge of the House keeps getting bigger. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. As bad as things looked for Republicans going into last week's midterms, Trump himself was apparently optimistic on election night. Vanity Fair reported that about 100 friends and allies gathered at the White House for a party to watch the midterm election results. Trump was in high spirits as the first polls closed, thinking that perhaps he defied the laws of political gravity once again. His mood was great, one Republican who spoke with Trump said, but that was before everything went bad. And you do not want to be at a party with Donald Trump when things go bad. I bet Trump's the kind of guy who would start the night at the blender, making margaritas and singing Cardi B, and at the end of the night, crying in the bathtub, eating burgers with the wrapper still on. Why can't you vote, hamburger? Of course, early on, it seemed like Trump might have good reason to be in high spirits because the narrative about what was happening got set very early by the media, which declared unequivocally that the election was definitely not a blue wave.
When you look at what's going on here tonight, this is not a blue wave.
This is not a blue wave.
It is not a blue wave.
It's nothing like a blue wave or a tidal wave.
Right.
It's not a blue wave.
So we haven't seen the blue wave.
There is not a blue wave.
That was like 2 hours in. Can you imagine if these guys had been calling the 1980 Olympics?
Do you believe in miracles? No.
The media rushed to set a narrative before most of the results were actually in, but now, in the week since the election, it's become clear that this was, in fact, a blue wave. In fact, just to give you an idea of how wrong the media narrative turned out to be, take South Carolina, a deep red state Trump won by 14 points. Trump intervened in the GOP primary for a South Carolina congressional seat to campaign against the sitting Republican, Mark Sanford, a Trump critic. Sanford famously had an affair while he was governor, and when he disappeared, his initial excuse was that he was hiking the Appalachian Trail. Trump repeatedly mocked Sanford for that, but got the name wrong.
Never liked him too much. I wasn't a big fan. The Tallahassee Trail must be a beautiful place. Unfortunately, he didn't go there.
No, he didn't, because there's no such thing. Tallahassee Trail sounds like something you'd see on the price list at a Florida waxing salon. So Trump helped push Sanford out in favor of Katie Arrington, a Republican who ran as a staunch Trump ally. Now remember, this is a seat that has been held by Republicans since the 80s. Let's see how Trump's hand-picked Republican candidate did.
The Democratic candidate Joe Cunningham defeated Republican Katie Arrington.
It's a surprising upset in a district that favored President Trump by double digits in 2016, and it's a seat held by a Republican for 4 decades.
Damn! No wonder Trump's depressed. When he heard that, he probably stormed out of the White House screaming, "If anyone needs me, I'll be hiking the Tallahassee Trail!" Trump couldn't even get a close ally elected in a district that's been held by Republicans for 4 decades in a deep red state he won by 14 points. And as the reality of the blue wave has come into focus over the last week, Trump has apparently been in a post-election funk. One administration official said the president has lashed out at several aides, from junior press assistants to senior officials. He's also fighting with American allies like French President Emmanuel Macron. For 2 years, Trump has been desperate to be Macron's friend. At one point, even brushing dandruff off of his shoulder.
We do have a very special relationship. In fact, I'll get that little piece of dandruff off. We have to make him perfect. He is perfect.
Dude, play it cool. You can tell Trump has never had adult friends, because as soon as he finds one, he starts grooming him like a capuchin monkey. Do you want to eat a bug from my hair? Well, after the midterms, their budding romance immediately started to cool off when an angry and sullen Trump decided to lash out at France over trade, specifically targeting one of France's most iconic exports.
This is what he said. He said, on trade, France makes excellent wine, but so does the U.S. The problem is that France makes it very hard for the U.S. to sell its wines into France and charges big tariffs, whereas the U.S. makes it easy for French wines and charges very small tariffs. Not fair, must change.
Not fair, must change. You know, it's very hard to come off as an expert on wine when you talk like Frankenstein. Aroma good, body full, fire bad. Dude, you're picking a fight with France over wine. We have no chance. One of their most famous wines is a Bordeaux called Grand Cru Classé, made by a vineyard called the Chateau Latour. One of our most famous wines is a box with a spout sticking out of it. So why? Why is Trump lashing out at everyone? Well, in particular, that he's doing. Sorry. So why is Trump lashing out at everyone? Question mark. Wally just pointed at the question mark for me. Do you want to, Wally, you want to bring the card around and show everybody how squeezed up that question mark is? Show him. Come on, Wally. Bring me the card. Come on. Come on. You're wondering why I got that wrong. Look at Wally. Look where Wally put that question mark. Just use another card. So why is Trump lashing out at everyone? In your defense, Wally, the why should have given it away as well. Well, in particular, he's depressed over the prospect that Democrats will now use their subpoena power in the House to investigate everything from his tax returns to his bank records. He's spent 2 years making enemies in the Democratic caucus, and now those enemies will have tremendous power. Just take California Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who has been the subject of Trump's racist insults for months, and especially in the closing days of the election.
I watched this Maxine Waters. You ever see Maxine Waters? A low IQ individual. Low IQ.
Many of these Democrat politicians who are really disciples of a very low IQ person, Maxine Waters. Your new de facto leader of the Democrat Party, the legendary Maxine Waters.
Legendary? Leave it to Trump to think he's insulting someone by giving them a kick-ass nickname. The legendary Maxine Waters sounds like something Angela Bassett would win an Oscar for. Trump decided to spend 2 years making Maxine Waters his arch nemesis, and now it looks like that decision has come back to bite him. But I mean, really, how bad could it be? What's the worst that Maxine Waters could do to Trump?
Maxine Waters, who won re-election Tuesday, will likely take over as the chairperson of the House Financial Services Committee. Waters, a vocal critic of Trump, could have power to subpoena the president's tax returns.
Damn! Damn. She can subpoena his tax returns, his bank records. Hell, she can subpoena the results of his IQ test. Trump has probably been calling her every day for a week like a sleazy Hollywood agent trying to make it up with a client. Maxine, baby, this is all one big misunderstanding. When I said low IQ, I meant high IQ. And when I said IQ, I meant iconic queen. You are an iconic queen. Slay, queen, slay. Please don't subpoena my tax returns. But as much focus as there is on investigating Trump, one of the keys to the Democrats' success is that they ran on an agenda focused on issues like health care. And now they'll have the power to pass bills in the House, like Medicare for All, and force Republicans to take positions on them. And that is right-wing Fox News pundits like Laura Ingraham freaking out.
Fresh-faced congressional members descended on the Capitol for orientation today. Congresswoman-elect Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Ocasio-Cortez, they represent some of the most radical views in Congress. Free college for all, free health care for all, the abolishment of ICE, a Green New Deal where the U.S. depends entirely on renewable energy.
Wait, they're trying to scare us with free health care? You know an idea is popular when even Fox News can't make it sound bad. What's next? These radical socialists are proposing crazy new ideas like free pizza, a trunk full of gold, Hamilton tickets, a kiss from Ryan Gosling. Trump knows. Trump knows that he'll be held accountable for his actions for the first time in 2 years, and as a result, he's panicking. A week after the midterms, it's clear that we saw a blue wave and a national repudiation of his presidency, with Democrats winning everywhere from the coasts to the Midwest to the
Tallahassee Trail.
This has been a closer look.